put allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, looks like we don't have any requests for public comment. So next on the list, superintendent update.
I really do not have a lot. It's just that over the next couple of months, I hope to learn more about the various laws that have been enacted and how they're going to affect schools in the future. So that will be a focus over the next few months. But we had a great into the school year, and we're already planning for the next one.
Okay. Assistant superintendent's reports.
Good. That's
What do you say?
Unless you have questions, it's all there. Well, I will say, we're still scheduled to ship the 23rd of July. They say it's a 2 to 3 day ship for the chillers. So we're still on schedule to start school with new chillers. The pads were poured today, so all we have to do is set them and hook them up.
Very good.
Roof repairs are getting ready to take place to south.
South, yes.
That's all that stuff we're seeing is.
Everything is staged, ready to go. And there's chances of rain this week a little bit, so, but we got the schedule. Background checks are done. They're ready to fire away on Monday morning.
Good.
All right, future dates. August 22nd is our next board meeting. September 19th, board meeting. October 24th, November 21st, December 19th, January 16th of 2025, February 20th, 2025, March 13th, April 10th, May 8th, and June 19th are all the next school board meetings for the next year.
May I ask that that we move the August, this way to start out the year, but we move the August 22nd board meeting. Ozark, Meet the Tigers Night. I think it was the first time we did that last year, and it was in conflict last year. And so we would like to move it because of that, and also we are planning the ribbon cutting for the storm shelter as well as the activity center.
Do you have a suggestion for a date?
Well, I was looking, and as school starts, it's getting harder and harder. So I had initially thought of August the 8th, but that's dead week, and I don't know if anybody's on vacation during that time frame. Okay.
What's on the 15th? That would be the first.
On the 15th, that's when we have back to school night.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we could go, what's the Thursday after that? The 29th. That still gives us a day to get in our tax rate, but as long as there's no major problems, that shouldn't be an issue. We're always prepared for that anyway. So we could do the 29th. That's keeping in the vein of the Thursday night. Are you good with that?
I need a motion to move the board meeting in August to the 29th.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Meeting has been moved to August 29th.
Thank you. We're really wanting to make August 22nd a great big kickoff for the school year. So.
Any other future dates that we can know about?
We have next week the MSBA conference in Branson, and I know that I'm going to go down on Monday, and I think Amber's going down also, and then Barbara's going to go down for secretary training on that Tuesday. And so we will also be developing and writing the calendar out of events that are coming up, and we'll get those to you.
Next is the consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? None opposed? Okay, moving on, item 16, approve of the board education open session minutes from last month.
Motion to approve those.
I'll second. All in favor? Unanimous approval. New business. Presentation of the 2024-2025 budget.
Come. I think it's going to touch it.
Okay, there you go. It's so quiet here tonight. Oh my gosh, it's sort of odd. Okay, so I want to just quickly go over the highlights of the budget and the budget process. And so when I started here, one of the things that we really wanted to do is to have our department heads as well as our principals have more input into the budget. So for the past 2 years, we have met with them to find out, what are the needs from supplies as well as from personnel. And I tell them, even if things are not approved in a year, keep asking. If you truly believe that you need things, you need to keep asking, because one of these days they may be approved. And our principals and our executive directors have done really well in trying to keep the budget to a minimum, but also knowing that there are things that are coming down the pipe that they're going to have in the future. So I wanted to, on the page of the graph, really quickly, I wanted to go over what our estimated revenues are. Remember, we try to budget conservative on revenues, and also have probably not as conservative on expenses, so that hopefully at the end of the year, we've got more revenues than we budgeted and less expenses than we budgeted, and that it comes out to the good. So with our revenue, you can see there we have local, county, state, federal, and other. So about 49% of our revenue comes from local sources. And the local sources, the number one is from the assessed property tax. Now, I have in here that I budgeted for a 3% increase in this, and a $20 million in assessed valuation of new construction. That is low. That is, all these numbers are based on a May projection, and after talking to the assessor, I asked him, I said, some of this, especially for our personal property, looked a little low, and he said that they hadn't completed it. So these numbers will change. These are just a very conservative estimate right now. But also, if you notice, like I said, it is right at 49% of our total budget comes from local revenue. Another source of local revenue is sales tax revenue from Proposition C. Although this is considered a local source of revenue, we actually get this money from the state, and it's distributed based on weighted average daily attendance. So this year, we're hoping out of that 40 million to get about $8.2 million from Proposition C. We also have funding at the local level for meals and a la carte, and we hope to have about $950,000 on that. That is a hard number to gauge at this point, because it's also based on how many or how much the students and the adults spend on meals. Last year, it was $962,000. This year, I'm only at, I think, almost $800,000, and I'm hoping we've got some more revenue. So
It's just a difficult number to budget.
I just didn't hear, did you say the Prop C numbers are reflected already in one of those, or they're in addition to?
They're already in there.
They're in with the local
Yes.
numbers?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, there's another. So then county revenue, we really do not get a lot of county revenue. It is about 1% of the revenue received, and it is fines, state assessed utilities, national and mineral and forest tax. And it's about $632,000 is what we're estimating. State revenue, we're estimating about $35 million. So this is about 44% of our budget. This year, the state changed a little bit of, they just changed the formula, but they changed some of the percentages that we're going to have, which they allocate the ADA on. And so that did help us a little bit. In the past, you get a weighted average for special education, as well as free and reduced, as well as limited education proficiencies. And in the past, we just really have never received any money from the state for free and reduced. And because of the change in their percentages, they lowered the threshold from 30.95 to 16.95. We're actually going to receive money for free and reduced. And so that's going to help our budget a little bit. So that was a great thing for the state to do that. They also, you usually receive, or in the past, has been $6,375 per your average daily attendance per child, and they have upped that. I think this year it was $6,670. So that has also helped us in this budget. And those are coming at a great time, especially when inflation is hitting us so hard. So that is greatly appreciated. Another funding for state revenue is early childhood special education, and we have budgeted about $2.2 million for that also. There are other smaller sources, such as parents as teachers, vocational programs, transportation, and state high need fund. And then in federal revenue, you notice that we really do not receive a lot of money in federal revenue. It's about 6%. We do have one more year to be able to download our ESSER funds. And if you remember what ESSER funds are, those are the pandemic funds that we receive. Every school and throughout the nation received when the pandemic hit us. So we still have about $850,000 that we're going to download this year that will help our revenue. Besides ESSER funds, there are 4 major sources from the federal funds: IDEA, food service, title funding, and once again, early childhood special education. And then other revenue, you see I only have $40,000 in other revenue, and those are just from miscellaneous items. So that is the budget for state revenue, so for revenues. And then if you go to the next page, I won't go through these numbers, but if you choose to read through those, you can see how it's broken up between the general fund, special fund, debt, and capital projects fund. And even that will change as when we set our tax rate. Those numbers will change because we will set the tax rate for each of those funds. And then the next page. Current expenses by fund. Right now, the current expenses are looking at $91 million. And it is a little odd because you're thinking, well, our revenue was not $91 million. But what happens is that we already have money in our debt service and we have money in our capital projects. Some of that capital projects are still bond money. And so when you spend that, you're expensing it. But we recorded that revenue 3 years ago. Okay? So you have to remember that schools are cash basis. And so you record the revenue in the year that you get it, and you record the expenses in the year that they happen, versus accrual when you try to match revenues and expenses in the same year. So it does make it difficult and different when you think, okay, our revenue is lower than our expenses. It's because we've already recognized revenue in some other year. Okay? So we have, let's see here, the total budget is a little over $91 million. So 84%, our operating fund is our general and our special fund. So special fund is another name for teacher fund, where all the teacher salaries go.
Everything else goes into the general fund. All our classified salaries, all our supplies. So if you add those two numbers together, it's basically called our operating fund. 84% of those two numbers, 84% of our operating fund is salary and benefits. Okay? There's not probably a lot of other industry that where your salary and benefits is that high of your total expenses. So, it sometimes does become difficult, as you know. A school cannot generate new revenue. We cannot go out and sell new widgets. And so we are at the mercy of the state as well as other sources of revenue. So we are very, very grateful for any source of revenue that we have. The budget this year is 4%, and 4% of this was an increase in health, not 4%, the increase to our health insurance was 4%. In the past, it's been 8%, so that is a good number, that it only increased by 4%. Supplies, professional development, and purchase services make up the remaining 16% of the operating funds budget. And then you have capital projects. We still have bond money left in there that we are finishing out projects with. The total capital projects is $9.8 million. Once the building projects are completed, the district anticipates having an ending balance of approximately $6.2 million. We hope that we will, in October and this year, develop a long-term outlook or long-term plan to use for our capital projects and capital money. And then debt service budget is used for payments of bonds and interest related to the debt. The debt service principal owed is $85 million. The district has budgeted $3 million, and I'm rounding that, $3 million for principal payments and $3.8 for interest payments and fees. And that is what makes up the 6.973 in debt service. So if you go to the next, you will see, once again, historical expenses by fund. And notice that it says 23-24 is estimated as well as 24-25 because we have not finished out this year. And what I have noticed as I have worked on some of these numbers is that in school accounting or school with DESE, we can finish up our year and have it audited. But then, let's say the next year, we realize that we have to reclassify something. You can reclassify it back in that year and re-upload numbers. So sometimes when you're trying to match this number, like the 21-22 number, with, if I go and pull the 21-22 report, the same report may not match. Because sometimes we are able to upload numbers and make it more accurate. And then the rest of this that is in here is basically, if you scroll through, we are supposed to, DESE wants to have revenues by fund, which we have that, as well as function and object. Our account codes are about 16 numbers long, and so you have object, function, subject, project, location. There's all kinds of numbers here, and so there are some that DESE wants to see in your budget, and this just gives you a little bit more detail if you wanted to see some more actual numbers instead of the great big numbers. And then if you scroll down, see all kinds, and you can get so detailed on this. It's basically the same numbers, just presented in a different ways. So we have our assessed valuation over the years. And you can see that this year we're only estimating at 3.6%. And you can tell which are your reassessment years by the percentages and which are not your reassessment years. Okay? And then this one's hard to read because this gives you the amortization for our bonds, and the next is the amortization for our leases. And then this one is the one that we look at to see where our fund balance is. Remember, we have not closed out this year. So our fund balance for next year depends on what happens this year. So I'm hoping by October, after we finish this year and we're audited, I can bring you the updated numbers with this.
But right now, very conservatively, we are estimating an 18% fund balance for next year. And so I am asking for your approval of this budget.
Any questions?
Would you explain a little bit for the people listening, what you mean by 18% fund balance? What's that for? What?
It's almost like your savings account. How many months can you pay your bills? And DESI, there's no law, there's no really guidance or guideline that says it has to be at a certain percentage. It's whatever the board feels comfortable with. And, you know, looking at the economic outlook of where we're going and how much money we need to have in our savings account. There are some, DESI does say that I believe it's either if your fund balance receipt goes down to 3 or 5%, then you're financially stressed. And as far as I know, our school has never been there. And so you are, I know that the board prefers to be around 20% is what we prefer, and so that's what we're hoping that we can get to by the end of this year. You want to have a decent sized fund balance, like I said, so if you needed to do, or if something, there's been times when the state has not given us our payments. So when we do not receive a payment from the state, we've got to take it and know that we have enough fund balance to cover our payroll. And so that's what that is. You don't want your fund balance to be exorbitantly high because you're not a bank. You know, and it's, would say that if it becomes exorbitantly high, you're not spending it on your students, you're not spending it on your teachers. And so help that's right. Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is setting the 2024-2025 school year meal prices.
So this is a formality, it's required by law. The total weighted average price set by the USDA is $3.85. We're required to make progress to close the gap between what we charge and that number. So according to law, the maximum required price increase shall not exceed 10 cents. And we are required to hit that 10 cents. We're actually 37 cents is where we're at, but because we hit that, the maximum we can't have to do is 10 cents. So my recommendation, based on USDA requirements, is to raise the prices as presented.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved. Approve 2024-2025 curriculum, instruction, and assessment plan.
Does anybody have any questions? I think Craig is on. He could answer any questions that you might have.
Is there any changes in this opinion?
Are there any changes to the plan from the previous year?
There are no substantial changes to it.
And it'll be nice if there's like no major changes for once. There's always changes in assessment with how many new tests that the government, that DESI, they require. So that's probably a good thing that we've not made any major changes this year.
One of the things that we are, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So one of the changes we have made, so for the last 10 years, we've been giving Evaluate every month. With all of the new additions that Bessie gave this past year, we changed and we asked Evaluate to change. And so they listened to several of us here in Missouri. And so instead of having to
So you're saying instead of having to have
It
a
used to be
multi-year
a monthly,
contract?
it used to be a monthly assessment, and we're gonna be able to only give it 3 times a year. So bring some instructional practice and time back instead of so much testing time. So it's a good, very good thing.
Motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Unanimously approved. Item D, approve 2024-2025 professional learning plan.
Again, is there anything that you want to, any changes you want to point out to us? Or maybe,
I don't think that there were.
I don't think.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? All right. Approve the 2024-2025 employee handbook. Any amendments, changes to the employee handbook?
There were changes, but I don't think that they were not major changes.
I appreciate that.
Yes, me too.
And actually, Kent and Philip did all that for us. So it was not me, it was them. Yes.
Thank you for highlighting this.
I loved reading it, so.
Yeah. Yes.
A motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved. Approval of 2024-2025 student handbooks.
Any major changes?
Anything that anybody wants to point out to us?
At the pre-K 6 level, we added some basic guidelines for how students, parents, and faculty and staff should relate to one another. Things have gotten a little tougher in the last few years on how people treat one another. And so some just clearer expectations there, still directing people towards board policy, but just making it clear, here are some very simple ways that we need to act and behave together. We also, at the K-4 level, added some information about making sure your child's potty trained. If you look, the average age of potty training used to be 3, now it's 5. And so we're having some kindergartners show up who should be potty trained, and there's no reason for them not to be. And so giving some guidelines about and expectations about that needs to happen. We had kindergarten preview and screenings not too long ago, and we made it clear to those families, hey, you've got a few months now, let's make sure we're potty trained before we come. So added some information there. Basically, those are the 2 biggest things, additions that we made. Other things were just maybe making sure that all of the pre-K through 6th grade handbooks had the same types of information in them, so we were consistent.
On the high school, we're not allowing lower classmen to attend prom.
Is that what it says?
It says 9th and 10th graders are not to attend. I thought that was interesting.
I wondered, did that mean not even as a day?
Yeah.
I wondered about.
Prom, the same rules apply, which are I understand that they're putting parameters to attendance. And then in addition to these rules, for prom, no 9th graders or 10th graders may attend.
And I wondered, does that mean even as a date?
I thought that was,
I do not know that answer. I would assume part of that is because of space allowed.
what is that mean?
I do not, honestly. I do not
That
know
part would be interesting, although I know there was I'm gonna call it a challenge. I saw it as a challenge, that if 2 upperclassmen were going, they were giving their tickets to underclassmen as their dates, even though these two are going as a date, and now this, and so I don't know if that, I know that was happening.
Right, but if they're just me and then my one ticket, how you can put parameters on that one ticket. I thought that was interesting.
I do not know, but we can, if you would approve it, we can bring it back and revisit it. And anything, and any of this can be amended at any time.
I just thought it was interesting.
We'll get some clarification on it.
I can't give that to you now, but
Thank you.
yes, we can get you clarification on that, absolutely.
Okay.
But if they're expecting that their junior invites the 10th grader, well, you can't come in there. What kid's gonna read this?
That's gonna be hard to please, in a sense.
We can get you clarification.
It might be that 10th, 9th, and 10th graders can't purchase tickets, but they can go as a date. Maybe is that the intent?
We'll get clarification.
Yeah, we'll get you clarification.
I think that was my understanding in the past, that 9th and 10th graders had to be invited to go to the.
Maybe. No, they never had that. That was me.
No, that's a new sentence. The mine's just a practice.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
Change.
We'll get you clarification on that.
I think I would add a piece there that we're changing that would say they could be invited.
Like not on their own.
I mean, if that's the intent, but I would hate for the junior that has a
Right.
10th grade, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, or they invite them, and then they show up and they can't come in, that would be kind of bad.
I would not think that would be the intent, but I would.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I think they're trying to get around what's, and I agree that it should be more of an event for the juniors and seniors and not what has happened in practice, in my opinion. I've found, I mean, yeah, that's my, so seeing them like, I kind of like their stance, but I get that there would be the challenges when you're actually bringing your personal date is that age, but from a, and it's just.
I have a question about why does that matter so much? Why does that matter so much? The people who paying for X number of tickets that were sold, why do they,
Yeah.
why does it matter?
Because can't kids from other school come?
The high school
Yeah,
principals.
they come in the office and check, you know, there's something, I was in the office one day when
Are we gonna release their age?
We will, this went through the high school principals, so I'm sure they had a reason for it. But I
So
would
we
just,
just, I mean, just when I'm reading, I'm like, oh, well,
yes, we can get that to you.
Because there's, like, there ought to be some limits of what we're trying to control. I mean, maybe there's a good reason for it.
So I need a motion to approve as presented with understanding that we'll get some clarification for possible future amendments.
Yep, absolutely.
I will make that motion.
Yes.
Like that.
So, yes.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Unanimously approved. Moving on to change orders.
They're pretty easy this month. If you have any questions, I can answer them for you.
It
Would
looks like
you explain them, please?
Okay, sure. So, change order for storm shelter, cafeteria and kitchen. If you go to page 2, you'll see that there's a 10'6" length of guardrailing due to existing conditions. So once the final retaining wall was in place and elevations were taken, that required an extension of the guardrail to 10 feet 6 inches, which is an add to the contract of $1,765. But that is moved from the contingency, so there's no increase at all to this project. As you look at the numbers, it still shows $67,207 in the contingency for the GMA or CMAR, and then there's $16,042 left in there for the Ozark school contingency. As we're wrapping this project up, those numbers will be one of those, like when we get that money rolled, it's not really rolled back to us, it's our money, but it'll come back in for other projects as well. So that's the Tiger Paw, finishing that up, and that's simply because the final conditions required a change or an extension of that.
What do you mean about conditions require that?
So you're moving dirt the whole time, so as you take dirt down, you add rock back and you build up, the retaining wall height, once it's completed, the actual the physical height of it isn't measurable until you're completed. Once you've measured it, then you realize that now you have to put a retaining or a guardrail up to keep kids from falling off of it into the area, then you have to come back and do it.
You don't know how tall you're gonna make it before you make it?
Well, so say it's 29 inches, okay? So at 29 inches, then now you actually take back and you cut further back into the wall and you cut further back. So the dirt now is 32 inches instead of 30 or 29 inches. Now we're required to put in a handrail or a guardrail. But you're digging a hole, you're filling it in, you're adding concrete, you're cutting back, and you're moving some of the tailings from over to here. So by the time you're done, even a difference of a couple inches requires the extension of a guardrail.
Okay, I wasn't trying to be argumentative.
No, you're not
I
at all.
understand, because I'm like, I think everybody always measures things out ahead of time.
But this is the dirt. This is the dirt and the retaining wall, and once you keep moving it around, yeah.
Slope is involved.
Yes. Oh, there you go.
But the big point, the big thing is that we're still saving, it looks like 335,000 off the original, right? So
On this
we're
one,
still
we're about 100,000. But yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but by the time, yeah. And then when we get to the storm shelter multi-purpose, if you look at that one, add signage and power, and this is, again, this was always part of it. When you build a building and the signage company comes in later, and they're the ones that have to measure and tell us where we're putting the power and how much power we need to put in. And so they've come in and they've measured and they know where we need to put it, they know how much power. So this is an add of 2,000, removing from contingency to the actual contract amount is $2,932. That still leaves in the Branco CMR contingency, not almost 90,000, and then the remaining owner contingency is 56. This project's still moving on, but we are getting close, and it's looking good on the inside. Hopefully we start putting turf down next week. So, and then the third one, which is the Ozark High School Activities Building. Sorry, I said that wrong. This is the storm shelter, this is the activities building. Turf is going in the activities building. Provide all materials and equipment necessary to, and it's a credit for a drainage pipe. So this is $3,700, $3,776 going back into the contingency. That goes back into the owner contingency. And then so here, as you can see, there's almost 93,000 left in the CMR contingency and nearly 59,000 left in the owner contingency.
Thank you for explaining.
Hey, you bet.
Motion to approve the change orders.
I'll make a motion to approve the change orders.
I'll second. All in favor? Unanimously approved. Tiger Paw tuition proposal.
Good evening. So, we're proposing tonight to have an increase in our tuition-based preschool and our child care rates. Which is another thing too. So these are just two of the programs of the 5 programs we have at Tiger Village Housing Center. But to understand what that means, so our preschool classrooms, they are regular education. We are going to add 2 additional classrooms for the next school year. So that will bring us to 9 total classrooms, serving 180 students in those rooms. The cost, so we have classroom teachers, paraprofessionals in each of those classrooms. It is like the typical school day, 5 days a week. And we still have students on the waiting list. Since we're adding those classrooms, we're able to pull about 40 of those students off, which is really wonderful. We've been screening them all of June to try to offer those spots to families so far. The next one for me. So the funding for those classrooms, we have a couple of different funding sources. We, as a district, are allotted a specific number of ADA preschool spots, so average daily attendance, like Dr. Wilson was mentioning earlier, based on our K-12 free and reduced lunch eligibility. So students that are preschool aged and that qualify for free and reduced lunch, we are able to offer them preschool. And based on that, we get funding from the state from that, which is the average daily attendance. Our classrooms are composed of students that are getting that type of funding source, but then also parent-paid tuition as well. Our parent-paid tuition currently, we go by the daily rate because we only charge the days that we're in session. Unlike some other private preschools where they charge a weekly rate, even if they're not there that day. It's a daily rate, but it's $25 per day currently, which is $125 per week currently. And the proposal is to increase that rate. So also, there's a grant currently, a preschool starter grant that is being provided by the state to encourage facilities to create new preschool classrooms because the demand for early childhood education is so great that we are going to tap into, apply for, and that provides $50,000 per classroom to set up that room and it can be applied towards salaries, equipment, that type of thing. And so because our 2 classrooms would meet that eligibility, we're looking to get $50,000 for each of those classrooms through that grant as well. The next program that we have that is parent tuition is our child care program. Our child care program is for district employees only. We serve students 6 weeks all the way to 2 years old, right, eligible for that 3-year-old classroom. So see a couple of our little guys right there, but we have different prices, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but that program runs every day that a teacher is required to be there. So it is beyond the school year, but it's any teacher work day. We provide care for that. The hours are not typical school day is 6:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. to cover that time for our staff if they have additional meetings or things to get to work. We currently have 3 lead teachers and 2 assistant teachers in that program itself. And so that funding is totally parent pay. It is tuition-based. And currently our infant toddlers, so those are 1 infant all the way up until 2 years old, is $37 per day, $185 a week, and then our 2-year-olds are $31 per day, $155 per week. And so our proposed changes basically at this point, I'm proposing that we add $2 per day for each of those programs. But I've also provided a scheduled increase so that we can account for some of the costs that we've incurred. The last time the board approved our increased schedule was 2019, and so a lot has happened since then. We have really increased costs of everything, and so we really need to look at how do we cover the cost of providing this service to the community and the parents and the children that want it and need it. And so the proposed is just to increase $2 per day for each of the programs, and then as we continue on through the years, having a scheduled increase so that we're not trying to catch up quite as much as we are kind of now. Does anybody have any questions about this specific? Okay, so the next one then. I have some tuition comparisons just for districts. So we looked at Nixa and Republic, what their programs are. They don't necessarily provide the same type of program. For instance, Nixa's preschool is only half day and 4 days a week. So it's quite different than what we have, but then they have Equal Care, which is like a daycare option for parents. Republic is closer to what we currently provide, but again, everyone is charging more than we are. And then when you look at Ozark specifically, the private ones, we are pretty far off from what that is. My philosophy is we don't want to put our local businesses out of business because we're so cheap comparatively, but also we need to cover the cost of what it costs to provide the service to our community. If you ask me, of course, I think we provide some of the best preschool and early education around, beyond the Ozark, but in the area completely. I think our staff are so knowledgeable and wonderful. And I think if you would take a poll of our parents, they're very pleased with what we provide as well. And so we just need to get a little bit more competitive with that, and also being conscious of the increased cost of personnel and everything. So that's why we're proposing to increase this at this one time.
Hey, Dr. Dawson, thanks so much for your presentation tonight. I think that also adding the extra classes is amazing, especially that it looks like it's pretty much offset by the tuition and the other pieces. So it looks like it's basically no cost to us to add that benefit. I had written down the question, how does it impact the wait list, so you answered that. I guess the other, and also looks like you said, we're pretty much the lowest cost provider here. So,
And I would like to make a comment. So we are adding a 4- and 5-year preschool classroom and a 3- and 4-year preschool classroom. By adding the 6- or 5-year preschool classroom, we're getting almost everybody off that specific wait list. And what that will look like is a little bit over 25% of our kindergarten class total will be going to Tiger Paw. So we have guaranteed really high quality early childhood education for them, which is really exciting and hopefully impacting that success when they enter that elementary school setting.
so one question for you, with the addition of those kids, I know it's a great facility, is there any issue that you foresee? That's kind of a big question.
Well, so we have been utilizing our new cafeteria and storm shelter this summer and at the end of the school year, and I'm almost giddy just thinking about how much has improved the just function of our building and all the pieces. Whenever that was added, it took away some of our playground. It eliminated our 2-year-old playground, so it had equipment specific for littler people. And then, so we have our current playground, and then we have a field that we build the kids run in just because of the size. The increase of number of students will put pressure on us to have students have the opportunity to really utilize that space. At this age, it's really important for them to be developing motorically and physically, and so our teachers are out at recess. We consider that instructional time a lot of the times. And one of our other programs is early childhood special education, and last year alone, we had 85 students that had either identified motor disabilities or delays, and so having an accessible playground, which our current playground is not, we have a few pieces of equipment that they can get to, but that's probably the biggest impacted area for us with the increase of our rosters, our student population currently. But overall, we're really excited to be able to have these kids because I feel like we're making a bigger impact, which is pretty powerful.
Appreciate it, thank you.
I've got 2 quick ones. They give me a microphone, so I'll yell. How long is okay? I'm one anyway. What is even with the addition and being able to cut down the waiting list? Any idea what that waiting list is now?
It grows as the year goes on.
Right.
We have some people in our community who the second they have a baby, they get on the waiting list because they want a spot. So we build our classrooms by kindergarten cohort. So these classes are the kids you will go to kindergarten, right? And we build our waiting list that way too. So this group of children, this is one waiting list. The next cohort is another waiting list. So the cohort of students that will be going to kindergarten in 25, 26, that's our preschool right now. We are almost getting to the very end of that. And so we are offering spots almost to everyone. The next one, which is our 3- and 4-year-olds, we have 90 preschool spots that we're gonna have for them. We still probably currently have about 70 kids on that wait list, and that will grow this school year. And so that will probably get to 150 by the time. But we will be able to offer 80 more spots for them next school year. And so then as to have more waiting lists down here, but they're not really in play yet because they're not old enough to be offered a spot.
As you grow, do you have the capacity at that building currently, funding provided, but space-wise, do you have the capacity to grow right now for the future if the
We have the capacity to grow probably a few more classrooms,
Okay.
yes, but I also think as we look at the future, we will look at different types of service delivery. I would really like to add half-day preschool for just regular education students because some 3-year-olds don't need to go all day long, and so they could go a morning session or afternoon session. And so for that one classroom, that one teacher, those resources, you could serve potentially 40 students instead of 20 students. And so thinking about how we offer those, I have some parents that would love for them to come to Tiger Paw, but they don't want them to come half time. And so looking at the community and what their wants and needs are too, we do have the capacity to grow more, but I think we need to think about how we service our students differently as well.
Very good, thank you.
Any more questions?
Motion to approve,
Motion to approve. I'll second it.
all in favor? Unanimously approved.
Thank you, Dr. Russell.
Last on the agenda is a adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved, adjourned, let's go home.